Beat with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, PenFed Realty, and this is the segment on Monday that I talk about real estate, and I'm supposed to have a guest, and he is on his way. We scoped a sewer over the weekend, and Erik Maybee is coming to talk about what we found and why scope a sewer. So in the meantime, I will talk to you a little bit about my newsletter that I put out, and if you want a copy of it, just call the station. They'll take your address, and I'll put you on my mailing list. But one of the things we're going to talk about today is street names. And you may not know, if you live in an older neighborhood, they may have renamed your street. For instance, the TV station now is located on the corner of Lincoln and Broadway. You may not know that Broadway was originally called Lawrence Street, and at one point they decided that every city in the United States had to have a main street, and they needed to be called Broadway. So they renamed Lawrence, same guy of Lawrence Lumber, same guy of Lawrence Dumont Stadium, so they renamed the street Broadway. So when you get up to where KFDI radio is, and that is called Old Lawrence Road, that's the reason it's called Old Lawrence Road. It kind of jogs around those railroad tracks. For instance, the neighborhood that I lived in is only a few blocks large, and they had named the, no, you're not, you just sit down. He's here now. Don't walk in front of me. So we're talking about street names. So the neighborhood that I live in, there was a guy who kind of founded the neighborhood, and he named the streets after his horses. And his horse's name was Grace and Prince. And when the city kind of took over and said, we're going to take the streets all the way to Douglas, they made him rename those streets. They're now Minneapolis and Minnesota. Why they decided to name two streets with the MINN as the abbreviation, I have no idea, right next to each other. But that's part of my newsletter, is we talked about street names. And I think there should be a street called Beat Street.
Oh, yeah.
So, Erik, I said that you were running a little late, but we had scoped a sewer over the weekend, and we were going to talk about why you scope a sewer and kind of what we found. And
Absolutely. So, one of the reasons we scope a sewer is no matter how much water we put down it, and I have a tendency to put a lot of water down.
Yeah. You have a lot of kids.
Yeah. We still cannot always find the faults in the sewer line, meaning slight separations. A perfect example was on the house next to yours. We were scoping it on Saturday, and as we were doing that, we actually found a repair.
Right.
The repair had already started to separate, and so we were able to identify that as a future maintenance issue.
But then we went further.
Yeah, where it ties into the main sewer, and it actually had separated quite a bit. It separated so much that I couldn't get my sewer camera to go any further down the line.
And the reason is because it had separated and made kind of a weird little lip.
Yeah.
And then his camera is really about as big as this microphone on the table.
It looks just like the microphone.
Yeah. And then it took to a cord just like this. How lucky we are.
Yeah.
And so it just wouldn't, it was, I don't know, what do we figure out, 25 feet out from where the clean out was in the backyard or so?
It was 50 feet.
Okay, 50 feet out, and we just couldn't get enough tension to get it up and over the lip to get it all the way to the sewer, but we were almost where there was a vacated alley. I live in an older neighborhood, and there used to be an alley back there, and they vacated it and made it everybody's backyard. So why do people get sewer scopes?
Well, that was a perfect example, especially on a real estate transaction. No matter how much the home inspector or anyone really tries to guess what the condition of it is without actually sending a camera down the line, we just don't know. It's an educated guess, but it's really not that far. The camera kind of ends that question because we're physically or visually seeing what's going on with that sewer system at that time. Sewer lines, as they're aging, as houses are aging, materials were defective at times, and we just didn't. We figured we found that out later on. Orangeburg, which is a felt style sewer line, is a perfect example of that. That pipe has a tendency to collapse on itself, so we We can
And-
see that with a camera where we really couldn't, you can't see that during a home inspection. You would have no idea of knowing, other than, oh, this house meets that time period of when it was put in, and so you can take an educated guess, but the camera literally removes that guess.
So there were a couple of things that let me know that there might be an issue. One is I was getting an odd odor in the garage. And there is a sewer pipe that goes into the garage for a particular reason in this particular house. And the other thing is you could always tell if you have a sewer leak because the grass is a little greener above that area. So if you have a really, really green patch that's a little bit mushy in your yard, you might have a sewer problem. So what do you usually charge to come out and run your camera?
My fee is $150 for the, and I try to just, it's really for home inspections. I do it outside. But my fee for as an add-on is $150.
My eye is watering. The allergies are just tremendous this week. I don't know if anybody else is suffering, but I'm not crying over my sewer thing. My eye is just watering beyond belief. So we found this, and now what do I have to do?
So now we've identified two issues, and so the next step would be have a sewer, a professional sewer or drain specialist out, and they'll dig out those sections and repair them. They'll put either sleeves on the inside, or they'll just replace that clay with plastic.
Right. So, and I have an older house, so it has that orange clay that we're talking about that collapses.
No, you don't have orangeburg. You have
Okay.
clay. You have a ceramic clay tile
Okay.
on that one. Yeah.
Okay. So this would be one. Oh, she's handing me some Kleenex. This most professional show I've ever done. Anyway, so
I like this.
you like the new setup?
I do like the
Yeah?
new setup. It's
Yeah?
very.
I like we can see outside and see what's going on, and there's a Jeep I can wave at it. Anyway, so it's usually one of the home inspection items that I tell people particularly to do when the house has been sitting for a while, because roots from trees and other things grow into the sewer causing damage. And we didn't see that on my sewer, but we saw that we've seen that in other ones.
We've seen it on other ones. Yeah, we've actually the camera. I've only had it for 5 months now. It's amazing the items you see. Kids' toys. Never figure out how they ever end up in there. I'm assuming they're getting dropped down to clean out. But yeah, it has just opened up another avenue of removing doubt as far as the home inspection goes. Before I had the camera, I really just didn't know what the condition of the sewer line was, other than if it backed up.
Right, and we see this in real time, so you have a little monitor on your little suitcase that you carry your stuff around, and it showed us immediately that we were having problems getting up over the lip and things like that. So give us your Facebook site or your phone number so they can reach you.
It's Maybee Property Inspection, 630-0003. Again, 630-0003.
So you can reach out to Erik for a home inspection, and I'll see you next week.